Welcome to the Morning Waffle. We do more before 8 a.m. than the rest of you people do all day. We'll tell you all about it right after this. Oh, here we are.
I forgot to share it.
You didn't do your job?
I forgot to do my job.
Yeah.
Hey, it's the first day of school.
That's right.
Yeah.
I said something to Lisa,
Holy
Lisa
guacamole.
Rice about that when I saw her getting coffee this morning. I said, howdy, happy first day of school.
I bet Lisa's been doing it a while. I don't know how long.
Who?
Lisa, who you said hi to. You
Yeah.
said Lisa Rice?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's been there a while.
She's been there a
primary.
minute.
Yeah.
She can't leave. Shayna
She's a very nice,
would be quite sad
nice,
if-
happy face to meet at the primary every time I go in there.
We've got
I
great
like her a
people.
lot.
She keeps it clicking.
Yes,
Good
she
people.
does.
There's good people all around.
Okay, I'm getting a
For
chair.
sure. For sure.
They're doing something fun. I'm going to call it the primary division of PTA. Is what I'm going to call it. Is having a woohoo or boohoo at Story.
That's today.
Yeah.
I totally forgot. Yeah, awesome.
Woohoo or boohoo.
Is that
Oh,
8?
you'll have to explain that to me.
Is that 8:30 to 10? Was that what I saw? Or
I
8
have
to
no
10,
idea. I know
something
it's
like that?
it's designed for especially like kindergarten, preschool type moms or dads when they drop the kids off and they're like,
Oh.
It sounded like a
What do I
support
do?
group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
It's
is like a
okay,
support
you
group.
just dropped your
Woohoo, I
kindergartner
dropped
off for.
the kids
or boo,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
dropped off the kids. Yeah,
Yeah.
which I had never heard that term until
Woohoo or
Amy, woohoo or boohoo, which
Well, it's a new one on me, but now
The
I'm...
greatest woohoo was the day that all 3 of my kids could drive themselves to school. That was like, woo!
And you're like,
that's
You
a good
literally
one.
get about half of your work day back.
Yeah, you do.
On the front end
Not
and back
schlepping
end.
them around?
Yeah, it's unreal, especially if they're
For
active
sure.
in activities.
Thanks, Peter, for driving your brothers to school.
Yeah, right.
Peter's like, yeah, okay. You're welcome for my sacrifice.
And this year was extra weird for me because Maddox, she's doing the OTC health science deal, like kind of like a pre-med type
That's
thing
cool.
at OTC. And so she's, she had to start yesterday.
I figured there must have been some because I saw
Yeah.
some
Oh,
first day of school and
it
I was like,
funny.
am I late?
Yeah, her and a couple others. There was I know one specific mom whose son was in that program.
Yeah, I think
was getting messages like, I started freaking out like I'd missed.
Same.
I had the wrong date.
Yeah.
And it was yesterday the first day. So.
There
I
was
was
some
like-
people that
Too
were caught
funny.
by that.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's definitely
Yeah.
Monday. I was so confused there for a split second. That's cool that they do that.
It is cool. Yeah. So she spends half of her day, more time there than she does at LR.
So what grade
year.
she?
Interesting.
She's a senior.
is
She's a
it.
Yeah.
senior. Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Ballard's going to be an empty nester.
Yeah, I mean, in one sense, I have 3 college kids now, even
you
though she
really-
hasn't graduated
Wow.
yet. But that's insane.
I'm still trying to get kids out of my house.
Go on,
I
get
got rid of 2 of them. One to go.
The one in my house right now isn't even mine.
Well, the one at my house is my
got a
favorite of my
spare?
3, so there is
picked
that.
up a spare.
Jack's fiance is living with us.
That's awesome.
yeah.
He's in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's going to school here, so she's living at our house.
I don't know, man.
got
That
it.
sounds like you got a pretty good deal there.
Will and
though.
Shelby's
You probably
way-
like
I've never
her
had
better.
a daughter
Yeah, right
before,
now.
so this is
There
all
you
new,
go.
huh?
There you go. It's Will and Shelby's wayward home or home for the wayward youth.
Yeah.
College students.
Starting a program.
Nope.
I don't know.
Nope.
Yes, I'm starting. I'm going to advertise it right now.
Not gonna do it.
Your eye is on the prize, that empty nest prize.
Yes, it is. You know, so we've had these these little
Go on,
tastes of
get.
it. Like we had a week or two here, a
Yeah.
week or two there of empty nest, and it was glorious. And then like they're back.
They're back.
They're back and they're eating our food and they're making messes.
Yes. And boy, do they eat food.
They
My
do
Yes,
eat
they
food.
do.
They're adult humans. Honey Bunches cold brew is delicious this morning.
That's so good.
Tastes like cereal in a good rate. And I mean, just in an amazing way.
If you haven't had the Honey Bunches of cold brew at Storytime Coffee, go
It's
by.
delightful.
Do yourself a favor.
It's happening.
And have yourself a breakfast cold drink.
It is delightful.
Well, I guess it's time to do that fall stuff now, isn't it?
We'll
It
wait till
is.
September
We're
before we
dabbling.
break out the basic white girl latte.
See,
The,
we've got
yeah.
11 days.
yeah, it's close.
You
It's
know,
close.
Under 2 weeks.
Back to the empty nester subject, though. Like when me and my brothers left the nest, we gone. Like we never came back.
Yeah.
You know, nobody ever moved back in. I think the only time I moved back in was the Christmas break of my freshman year of college, right? Because they kick you out of the dorms. And so I had to go someplace, and they took me in, luckily, John and Vicky.
Out of the goodness of their heart.
That did not go well. I mean, I do remember that Christmas break.
yeah.
Lauren's new sense of freedom combined with normal parental rules
I bet.
At odds
was
with one another.
a weird combination.
Yeah.
But we survived it.
I think everybody
We
deals
did
with that.
4
Yeah.
months in my parents' basement when we moved back from Southeast Missouri over here.
Yeah.
We were trying to sell the house over there,
Yeah.
looking for a house here. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to throw away. At that time, rent would have been about $800 a month.
Yeah.
You know, and you're paying your mortgage on top of that. I was like, I don't
That's
want
a lot.
to do that. And so Shayna agreed that, okay, it's a basement. It is going to kind of have their own living quarters down there. How
Yeah.
bad could it be?
Yeah.
And let's just say we had twin 3-year-olds and a 3-month-old at the time.
Boom.
And
That'll do it.
my mom is a wonderful grandma.
It's so loaded.
However, boundaries have not always been her forte.
So she's like she's like, I'm just going to love you all to death.
While you're here, I'm just gonna,
I'm
if
just
I
gonna
need
love
to
on
parent,
ya.
and she was a nanny for.
Yeah.
for
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
Did you eat? Have you eaten?
Have
yet?
you?
Well,
yeah.
it wasn't even so much
Look at
that,
baby.
but
I
it was
think
like,
you need to let that baby
here's
cry.
how you parent, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll never forget. I had just moved back here, and I'm excited because I'm meeting up with all the new people at the church, but also the people I grew up with in this area,
Yeah.
and I'm having a blast. It's like a big, this drawn out reunion, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm playing softball, and
Ballard's
I'm playing
back to her.
flag
Yeah.
football, and
Yeah.
and all these things. And so I had a flag football game that I was excited. I came home late from a meeting. Late,
Yeah.
it was like almost 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I knew I had a short turnaround, and I was going to go play a flag football game.
Yeah.
And Shayna greeted me at the door. Didn't even walk through.
Mm-hmm.
She met me outside on the porch and said, I don't care what it costs. We're getting an apartment.
Got to go.
We're getting out of here.
Yeah.
And I was in my mind calculating how quickly can I, wrap this up and
Yeah.
resolve this conflict and still get to my
to my
flag
game.
football
Get to my
game.
flag football game.
And it took about 30 seconds to realize I'm not playing football tonight.
No.
husband
Yeah,
mistake.
young husband mistakes.
and
Yeah.
maybe-
I had
maybe-
one thing on my mind,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
yeah.
I did not play football that night.
Good for
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
That's why you're still
I'm
married.
still married, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But praise the Lord. I think it was within the week we had a legitimate offer, and within 2 weeks we had accepted the offer. And so crisis averted. Guys, all I could do was count the dollars. Like, what a waste this would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's happy
Here's-
life, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
It was hard. My point in all that story is,
yeah.
you're not intended to go back.
No, you're not. And even with the best family, you're not intended to go back.
And we get along great with my parents.
Yes,
But
yes.
those 4 months put that
Leave
to
and
the
clean.
test.
Leave and clean.
Leave and
Yeah,
clean,
yeah. Well, and you're not intended to go back, right? You should fly from the nest. And I've had this epic epiphany recently, and this is going to go back to politics. And I never thought about this at the time. When they changed healthcare to allow students to be on their parents' healthcare
Until
until
25.
25. It used to be, I think, 21. I remember distinctly when I graduated college, I thought, I've got to get a job with benefits. I've got to enter the real workforce because I've got to have benefits.
I got to leave and cleave.
And I'm not
That's a
even
part of
sure.
it.
I'm not even sure I had health insurance at the time. Period. But Because you used to be able to get away with that.
You didn't have to have it.
And you wouldn't go
Can you
bankrupt.
imagine that?
Yeah.
You have to have it now.
And so here we are now, enough time away from that change.
Yeah.
I think we've realized that it was an incentive, and it's not the reason, but another kind of incentive that allowed the younger generation to not fully enter the full-time workforce.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And it just hit me the other day because I was talking about, somebody specifically, and that makes perfect sense, right?
You got to take the training wheels off one of these days.
You got to take them off. But now I will say it is a lot harder to take them off than it used to be because when we were ready to fly the nest, you could go find a place where you could afford the rent and you could kind of afford your living expenses as long as you pinched pennies and ate at Taco Bell, which used to be cheap, by the way. It's not anymore. Nothing's cheap. Now, I really feel for the generation, though, because it is a lot harder to do that.
Well, and I get things are more expensive, but I also think there's not the tolerance for the penny pinching and the I'm going to eat ramen every night.
Yeah,
Correct.
the delayed gratification.
That
Yeah.
we took for granted.
Yeah.
That's what we were. I mean, I ate Lipton bags of noodles
Nice.
for 3 years
Yeah.
in law school.
haven't-
I mean, I ate
Sure.
every night.
Yeah.
Well, you were in the trenches with your friends on that, too.
Sure.
So you all were doing the same thing. Like, we were all eating it, having and Taco Bell was kind of a treat, or eating ramen, and there wasn't any pressure
Yeah.
to go
You could
get a coffee drink. We didn't do that.
We didn't spend $5
You
on
could
coffee.
get
Heck
10
no.
Hardee's hamburgers for $1 when I was in college.
Yeah.
A bag of hamburgers.
Bag of burgers.
for
Man, you
$1.
split that with the guys.
Dadgum.
That was a good deal.
Yep.
Yeah, and you kind of worked, as peers, you kind of worked together through that.
Yeah, I called a buddy of mine last week on his birthday and just, hey, what's the life update? How's your kids? Whatever. Well, my daughter, she got married a year ago, and they moved in. They lived with us for about 3 months while they were looking for a house, and he's describing, they both have good jobs, but still their starter house was $350,000. And I was like, what? I mean,
I've never paid for a house that is the price of a starter house.
right.
Now.
Yeah.
I never have.
I know, me either. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I know.
our second level house was
Yeah.
back then when we bought it was in the 200s, right?
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah.
to think that's a starter house now.
Yeah.
And that's just insane to think about.
crazy.
But yeah, so it is harder. And now granted, you can get a starter house for closer to 200 now, right? But yeah, it is harder. That's my point.
It's a lot harder. Yeah.
Any way you put it, it's hard.
Well, somebody said-
Kamala wants to give everybody $25,000, right, towards their first
You
home.
really want to start this?
so
the interesting
scared.
thing is, it's like somebody said the other day, I thought this was brilliant. Says your house really isn't worth any more than it ever was. It's your dollar is worth less.
That's it.
And that's true because it's like that Big Mac's not worth anymore.
Right.
Your dollar's worth less. We get that when we
Right.
talk about food.
Yeah.
But it's the same with your real estate. And I get to some extent there is appreciation in real estate that is not tied to inflation. That's true too.
Yeah, but it's gone right now.
But that's not what's happening right now.
It's gone because of inflation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they always say if it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. These people are freaking communists running the Democratic Party.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I mean, price fixing.
Yeah.
Price
It
controls.
is. I mean, it is.
subsidized how we're going
Basic
to give you this.
basic
we're gonna cap
economics.
this.
Honestly,
I mean,
I'm not
that
so...
is communism.
I'm not so sure they're really trying to hide the fact that it's communism. I don't think
I don't think they are
they're calling it that,
They're not
obviously.
calling it that, yeah.
Because that's a dirty word to
But
some
you
people.
can find
some
now
not.
on Tim Walz. Is that the dude's name?
The VP candidate.
Yeah, you can find records of him and videos of him praising communism, and communism is really just about sharing and and socialism just being a good neighbor.
Yeah.
And it's really
Yeah.
not.
No,
being a
it's
good
not.
neighbor is you helping you.
I first
helping
visited Venezuela in the 80s when it had a thriving democracy, and it was an amazing country. It's still one of the most beautiful
Why do
countries
we
I've
keep
ever been
trying
to.
this stupid stuff?
That's
I
my
don't
point.
know. It never was worked.
I have to realize that I will probably never go back to that country. As a kid, I thought I'm going to go back there someday.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
amazing. I've been there 3 times.
yeah,
It is so sad what has happened in that country.
yeah.
It is so
It
sad.
doesn't work.
How do
It
how
literally,
does,
8
communism
million
does not
people
work.
have fled that country. Half of the population fled that country.
are they here and voting for Democrats?
They've gone all. I don't know. They're scattered throughout. A lot of them are in Colombia
Yeah.
and Peru, but many of them have made their way
I'm going
here.
to go check out Argentina. I think.
Yeah,
Argentina's beautiful.
Yeah, we're gonna go check
Good.
that out next summer.
it's good.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Javier
listen
Milei.
to people talk who, and I have the luxury of being around a lot of different people. Sometimes in one day, I'll be around a lot of different people. For as much as I stay in Rogersville, I have a lot of access to people, I think is a good way to put that. I'm not a world traveler by any means at all. So, but you listen to somebody who I know, and I'll listen to him talk, who I know has a very different political opinion than I do. And it's so based off of the wrong things.
Yeah, at some point
And
there's a
it's-
disconnect from reality.
It's the same on the kind of, let's call it the right-winger side too.
Mm-hmm.
It's so based off of the wrong things.
Yeah, I'm just not sure that the right wing actually exists. I think it's a media. I think
No,
it
there's
does.
an extreme
It
right wing.
absolute-
There's
Not
an
much.
extreme right wing that's
No.
dangerous.
not like there is
it's-
not like the left wing.
I'll give it to
It
you.
does exist.
I'll give it to you that it's a caricature when it's portrayed
Yeah.
by the media, but
Well, I think it is.
But it's
exists.
very small. It's not in control of any major party. Like the left wing politics in the United States controls the Democratic Party. I mean,
They do now.
They do
Yeah.
now. I
Yeah,
mean, so it's
I'll
not
agree
the
with
same
that.
thing at all.
I will agree with that.
And you have the Democratic Party controlled by the left-wing communists, and then you have the Republican Party that's basically what we always thought of as moderates as we were all growing up.
There's a lot.
And then there's the right-wing
yeah.
nut jobs out there.
Mm-hmm.
I will say there's a lot of Republican moderates who probably think in their mind that they're like conservatives, right? Which I think that those are two different things. I just, it's kind of unnerving because I really don't think, and this has been true for a lot of different things. People are like, this is what I want to see happen. And they don't understand that that can't happen without some conservative politics. Does that make sense?
I mean, everything that everybody wants can be achieved. But the only way to do it is through conservative principles. The liberal, the communist, the socialist principles will not achieve their stated goals. They just can't.
Yeah, and I'm talking like on the economic side, not the social issue
I'm
side.
talking on both sides.
Yeah, I think they're not disconnected. But so I was listening. I don't often do this, but I was driving in this morning and I had Nick Reed on, and he played a clip from Donahue. You remember the Donahue show?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that guy was a Democrat. He was a liberal. But when we talk about liberal in the
In the
80s,
70s,
right,
80s,
70s,
yeah.
80s,
That's a different deal.
That's a different deal. You know, like
Yeah.
when I lived in Southeast Missouri, there were a lot of old blue farmers.
Texas County was a Democrat county.
Right, and
Republicans couldn't win there.
But I remember
Back in the day.
I remember looking at some of my friends over there and just saying, you know that the party's changed, right? And they knew it,
Yeah.
but they had a hard time leaving it.
Yep.
Yeah.
They saw it, they were frustrated by it, but they were, in their mind, they were still 70s, 80s, maybe even 90s Democrats.
It's really sad.
But it's very, very different. But anyway, what struck me, he played a clip, and I don't remember who he was interviewing, but the tone of the conversation was so different.
Yeah.
And he was
Yes.
actually, whoever he was interviewing was actually talking about socialism and social economic policies. But the tone of the conversation was so refreshing. It was, well, that was it. It was a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't
that anymore.
It wasn't sound bites. It wasn't designed for gotcha statements. It wasn't hateful.
Well, and that's just it. I cannot. I mean, I've repeatedly tried, and sometimes I do, sometimes to engage people that don't think like me in a conversation, and inevitably within 2 or 3 exchanges, names. I'm being called
Insulted,
names.
right, yeah,
And
yeah.
insults are being personal insults
Right.
are being hurled at me.
Yeah.
Because there is no logical argument
yeah.
to support a leftist position. The only thing they can do is hurl insults at you, and that's all they do. And it devolves so quickly, and you can.
Well, and I guess, and not to argue for their point, because I don't agree with their point, but in the way the United States government is set up, which is why we're all here, it isn't designed around those principles. So that's the left principles.
No, it's
So
not.
that's why I struggle to eat, because in my mind, in a perfect world, the states would run themselves. The federal government would be for like national defense, and I honestly would be okay with like a federally ran road system. I know that sounds weird.
Interstate
Type
roads.
system. I'm fine with that.
Sure.
But like, that's it. And I want to, the whole thing of the communities used to take care of their neighbors. That used to work.
Yep.
And now that's stopped working because the federal government decided to step in and take over it, and they cannot possibly run something efficiently.
This is you get me on my soapbox. I mean, that
just
is the
getting
deal.
real,
Is when churches handed over their responsibility
yes.
to the government. Because
Preach.
listen, we started universities, we started the hospitals,
Yep.
we started the orphanages,
Yeah.
and when the churches
Abdicated
Yep.
their responsibility.
once we abdicated our responsibility, it became government run, and all of a sudden, we don't even know how to help anymore because
Yeah.
it's
so weird.
sad. And so what did we do?
So
what did
weird.
churches do? I won't say we because I'm not a part of this. Churches started building bigger buildings,
Yeah.
and
Well, and I would argue this, and I you can disagree with me, and that's fine. The churches and the capitalist, the big wigs of capitalism, let's say, the big corporations, I don't believe the government changed them. I believe they were changing at the same time the government was changing, and it's all based around greed, period. And it morphed into what it is. So I think there's fault with all parties. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but understand, when you marry corporations with government, you no longer have a conservative
That's what I'm saying.
Republican
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
form of government. And
you say to be clear, you're talking about a Republican form of government, not a party.
the Republican Party.
Right?
Yeah.
Although I contend that also is true, because
that's
if
fair,
you
if
look
that's
at corporate donations, they all give lion's share of their donations to which party? The Democrat Party. So you're mad at all these corporations. Corporations. Well, who are they donating to? The Democrats.
Well, I'm talking
why are
about.
they donating?
I'm talking
I'm not
about
talking
like.
you.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like we're probably. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say when this would have happened because I wasn't alive then. I didn't know, and I know when I've worked in corporate America, and I know what I've seen the churches do. And I know there's so much anger towards the churches, and they have to remember that they're angry at people, not Jesus, right? And there's this big, weird misconception to be mad at Jesus for people's bad behavior. That's stupid. That doesn't make sense. So at some point, though, and it's the same with communism, the greed's going to win out. That's the bad nature of human beings.
Right.
Yeah, that was the
Right?
deal on
That's
greed.
the deal.
On this interview I heard earlier this morning, they used that word greed.
Yeah.
And it was talking about corporate greed, and it's like what
about communist greed?
Yeah, that was
That
his point.
happens too.
Communism is founded on greed.
With greed.
Yeah.
It turns to greed. It's not founded on greed. Yeah.
Because again, if you put something
The
in
Russian communism was founded on greed.
a perfect world, things are perfect, but we're not designed to be perfect.
Right.
So somebody
Therefore, the
always
system will never work.
The system will never work.
We are
And-
designed to be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
sin
right.
corrupts.
Yeah. But
and
I'm-
redesigned to be perfected.
And frankly, it's the same with the capitalist system. It can't be perfect either because people won't operate that way.
It's just the best we got.
Yeah. There's better options. There's worse. I know this is serious,
Yeah, you
isn't
nailed
it?
it, Sean.
It's my fault,
Right.
Sean.
Yeah.
I'll take the blame on
Chris
this
did
one.
start this.
I
not
did.
Me. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Clear.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
So I do
So
think
easy.
it would be helpful for people to think a little deeper about this stuff and understand that, I worked in 3 of the biggest corporations in the United States. They weren't ran like I would run my businesses, right?
Yep.
And if you haven't worked for the big corporations, it's really hard to get a feel for what that's like.
Well,
I mean, it is,
What
period.
kind of frustrates me is, I've got leftists that are calling me, stingy and greedy, and I don't care about the poor because I don't vote for
Which is
welfare.
bonkers.
It's like, excuse me, I guarantee you,
Yeah.
I give more to help
Yes.
people in actual poverty out of my pocket than you could ever dream of.
Yeah.
So
But you can't.
how dare you tell
Yeah,
me I
I
lack
know.
compassion
Well, yes,
because
I
I
know.
won't vote to steal somebody else's money,
Right.
to
And do it,
force
yeah.
them to do charity because I think they ought to be charitable.
And that's the big misconception that they don't understand.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
I don't have a hard time finding commonality with those that oppose my political views. I too am concerned because I have, as I just discussed, a 17-year-old and 2 21-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I see the world that they're entering in. I see that it's going to be hard for them to get that first home and
Yeah.
to make a livable wage. We just come at the solution from a different point of view. And so I find commonality very easy to find, but it's just your solutions don't
Listen,
don't work.
Stealing is wrong. It's always wrong, regardless of your motive. And if I steal money out of your pocket and give it to Lauren because she needs it,
Because the poor.
that's stealing.
Right.
That's always stealing. It's always wrong. It's immoral. Just because I pass a law to do the exact same thing doesn't make it not stealing anymore.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, the facts are, though, both political parties have absolutely done this.
Oh,
It's
everybody's
like
raiding
the, was it Daniel Boone? Is that the story that Chappell told at coffee the other day?
Yep.
Daniel Boone?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And he's like, going to the Alamo.
Yeah.
Boone out.
I mean, basically, like, the Republicans and Democrats have both been taking money from people.
Everybody's raiding the public
They're
chest.
all doing it.
Yep.
And, the system is so big. And I mean, that's the other thing. The scale of this, people have no concept of.
It's too big.
Literally, it's too big.
It doesn't need to be.
It's too big, and it doesn't need to be. You're exactly right.
I don't know who cracked the dam, but somebody did.
I don't
the
either.
First time somebody said, "Well, let's just have the government pay for that."
Good morning, Tatiana.
Hitler's fine. I don't mind Hitler. He's fine.
Yeah.
That's the person I'm going to go get.
Yeah.
Is the person, because we took care of Hitler. We got him. But the person that said, well, let's just have the government pay
Well,
for it.
I don't, and I think I think that probably happened with the first time mankind got organized into a community. Does that make sense?
Well, no. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Because everybody said, you get this false flag where people say, well, police departments, that's socialism. It's not socialism because everyone participates and everyone gets the equal benefit of the police department. That's not socialism.
Yeah.
That's communitarianism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say
Communities
that.
working together. That's
Yeah.
not socialism.
That's local government.
Socialism is where we put all of our money together and then, we give you a little more because you need a little more and you don't need as much.
And there's
so
no
we're not
fair
giving
way
it
to
you.
do that. There's
never any
absolutely no fair
Even
way
if
to do
there's a
that.
fair way, there wouldn't be a fair judgment because the people
Correct.
making the judgments
Cannot,
are corrupt.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the problem.
or will become corrupt
Well,
soon
and,
enough.
and it's amazing, like, people only know what they see and they only get worried about the problems I feel like they're encountering on a daily basis. Like where you live, the places you go, your brain becomes hyper focused on that stuff. And your problem seems more important than other people's problems. And it's like the whole thing, it's stupid probably that I say to my kids if they're being a picky eater, well, there's starving kids in Africa because my kids have no concept of what it's like to starve. Mm-hmm. So how does that even relevant to them?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And what we say all these
Start telling them
things.
there's starving kids in Webster County.
Well, yeah, there's starving kids that you go to school with, and I've told them that too. But again, they still have no concept of that because they have never starved. And so, you become hyper-focused. These are my problems. These are the problems that we need to fix. And they forget that there's this giant world out there that we, cannot possibly fix. There's no way for us as individuals to do that. There's no way our money can fix problems. It can't. At the end of the day, the money cannot fix the problems, right?
Well, it's a heart problem.
Yeah.
It's a heart problem with folks. So, but it's all built.
And I do wish that the younger, and especially the younger generation of women, would see a little bit more depth to these problems than the surface that they're being shown.
Well, it's such a lollipop analogy. It's like there are rich people, and we need money. So let's just take their money and use that to solve this problem. And I mean, that is the depth of thought that goes into
You're
that
100%
analysis.
right, which is bullcrap.
Well, it is.
It is.
Because it lacks nuance. It lacks
Because
a
Elon
complete
Musk
understanding.
has problems.
Yeah,
He does.
he got some big problems.
He's got some big problems.
Can't fathom his
Bill
problems.
Gates, he's got problems. In fact, he has so many problems, he probably has a payroll of $100,000s of dollars a day trying to pay to keep himself out of problems.
More money, more problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing that just blows my mind that people cannot seem to understand. The money will not fix it.
It doesn't fix it.
Not one bit.
Yeah. Well, just
Money
pay
can't buy
attention.
happiness. So I guess I'll have to rent it.
Well, you said earlier, the big corporations, they're giving to liberal causes. Think about that. Why would they support the party that says take money from the wealthy and give it?
Because they're not going to do it.
They're not going to do it, right?
So
No.
that's not what they're doing.
Follow the
No.
logic there and
Exactly,
ask
yeah.
yourself,
That's not what they're
why
doing.
would they support such a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all a facade.
Well, it is a facade because, if I run if a corporation, you tax me all you want. I don't care. Because here's what happens. You levy taxes on corporations, okay? You levied a tax on me and all my competitors.
I'll just pass it on.
Okay, so we all raise our prices by 10%. It's not a competitive issue because I know Sears and Ward's, I know everybody else that's competing with me, they're going to raise their prices because they have to pay the same corporate tax I do. So who pays the tax? The consumer does. It's a shell game. And by the way, my profit margin is 1%. Well, when I increase my prices because of the tax, I increase my profit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in middle school the first time I heard the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the middle gets squeezed. And I understood it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just understand it
Everybody
experientially
is
now.
like, look, inflation's bad and corporations are making all this money. Well, yeah, because of inflation.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Of
what
course-
happened.
Of course, they are. Their numbers are higher because
Yeah.
everything costs more money. Obviously, your sales numbers are higher. Now, is their net higher?
Well, is their percentage profit higher?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No.
It
And-
might be.
Well, and here's some information for you. So, building a custom home traditionally costs, since I've been doing real estate, you could get them done. And I'm when I say custom home, I mean a custom built home, an individual working with the builder with nicer to not ultra level finishes, but nice higher end finishes. You used to be able to get that done when I started real estate. Probably for $175 a square foot. That is now $300+ a square foot to do
Wow.
that.
Wow.
And you know what a good chunk of that is? Because that was, it was $185 not too long ago, $200 not too long ago.
Compliance cost.
The cost of labor. And because, materials went up, but the cost of labor went up.
Well, when labor
I remember
goes
it was
up,
80 to 90 a square
Yeah,
foot.
and I remember when I started, you could get an entry-level home, like just a normal built spec home for $100 a square foot.
Yeah.
well, when the cost of labor goes up, the cost of everything goes up because labor
Absolutely.
is involved in the manufacturing, the packaging, the transportation of everything. So when labor goes up, the cost of everything goes up. So when you start talking about we need to raise the minimum wage, folks, think about what you're talking about.
That's bonkers.
That's just stupid.
It doesn't. It literally is just like putting money in one hand and moving it to the other.
Yep.
It
Well, it's
doesn't,
worse
and then
than
going
that.
back. It doesn't do.
It's worse than that.
Yeah.
The people that make a minimum wage always lose purchasing power when the
yes.
minimum wage is forced up artificially.
Yep.
Every
Never-
single
it
time,
never
they will
levels
lose
out.
ground.
Yep.
You make their plight, you make the plight of the poor people worse every time you raise the
Feels
minimum
great
wage.
though, right? Because that paycheck is a larger number.
Feels good. Feels so good.
Look at this.
Oh, look what we did.
I only
We
worked 30 hours. Look what
we
I got.
voted to raise the minimum wage. Aren't we good people?
And
Well,
then the next
it's-
thing out of their mind is, I can't afford milk.
I can't afford milk.
So we can complain about it a lot. We can complain about it every day until we're blue in the face.
No, just
But
stop voting for Democrats.
I think the problem is well, and I don't really trust the Republicans to fix this problem
That's the
either.
thing, like-
That's where I'm at.
Well,
There's the line between.
But I know the Democrats are going to make it worse.
Well, but I
am concerned about the wide swing left. That concerns
Oh
me.
yeah, that's scary. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm like, we gotta, as a whole, start making some real big
Well,
changes.
there's got to be a cadre of people, and they exist within the Republican Party, the Freedom Caucus folks that are like, we've got to pare down government. We've got to enact the fair tax. We've got to get rid of income tax. We've got to get rid of property taxes. These are the things that are killing America. And those people all exist within the Republican Party.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But you gotta. They are one thing.
Yeah.
The population is who we have to change
For
the
sure.
thought on.
Yeah.
And that's
And
not.
we're fighting
and
against
I don't.
the media. We're fighting
100%.
against the schools. We're fighting against everybody.
Yeah.
Because they're all preaching this critical theory, communist, socialist, Marxist dogma that is. I can't say
Which
the word
is so.
that I want to say.
It's so bizarre.
Let's be careful there. When we say all are preaching this, we live in a pocket where I know at Logan Rogersville High School, my kids are not being indoctrinated.
True.
Yeah,
you're right.
no.
You're right.
You know, and
we're in a good,
I'm
good
getting
place.
so tired of the mainstream media, conservative media,
Yes.
pushing this idea that this is true of all public schools everywhere. Because what
true.
is going on
And I agree.
in pockets in the West Coast and pockets in the East Coast is not true here. And so we have all these people dogging on public school. And listen, Springfield Public Schools, they're a mess.
They're a mess.
Right? But let's not lump Rogersville into the same category.
And I don't intend to do that.
No, I know you didn't. I'm just bringing clarification.
But I do want to say, I think it's more widespread than pockets in the East Coast and West Coast. I think it's more
I
widespread
do think
than
it
that.
is more
and I
wide.
think that it is. I think that probably if you looked at the textbooks in Rogersville, you would find it.
Sure.
It's in there because you probably can't find textbooks.
I'm just
that
simply
don't have it.
saying,
But our people are
people
good.
are
I trust our
lumping.
people.
People are lumping everyone in together. I can
Agreed.
think of a particular teacher at Rogersville that I know to be liberal in his own personal views, their own personal views.
His or her?
Yeah.
Non-binary.
No, just
But the advice this person gave to my daughter was, have you looked at SIVO? Because I think that would really align with your
Yeah.
family values. A liberal-minded person, right, who
Yeah.
some people want to demonize and, oh, look, that's the kind of person that will indoctrinate your Christian kids, against Christ, is the very one saying, have you
Yeah.
thought about SIVO? That's a great financial decision for you, and that fits with your families, because we know your family. It's like, that's reality, people. Quit demonizing all public school
Yes.
officials and teachers and administrators.
it's like. Have you heard that there's litter boxes in the bathroom for the furries?
Right. This is where I get
heard on
annoyed with
Twitter.
when I talk about
Yeah.
the extreme right wing.
Yeah.
It is invading
Yes.
conservatives in that thought life. We've got to quit using hyperbolic statements
Yes.
about everything related to public
Absolutely.
schools.
Yeah. Have you heard the litter boxes are in the bathroom for the furries?
Yeah.
Have you heard this rumor? I heard it in Republic. I heard in West Springfield.
And it gets shared on social media as if it's
think about
gospel
this.
truth.
Let's think about this for a second. And first of all, what janitor in public school system is
gonna
going to
clean
go
a litter
empty a
box?
litter box?
They're all quitting today.
Maybe that happened in some crazy instance. It's like they've urban legends. Urban legends are now dictating our politics. It's bonkers.
Yes. And this is where I'm calling for just level-headedness.
Yes.
Would you just take a deep
Calm
breath before you
down.
hit that share button? Do a little
Yes.
bit of investigation.
Yes.
Ask
And
the critical
Just
questions.
because your opinion or your idea was reinforced on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or wherever else doesn't mean that it's actually happening right in front of you. And because here's what's scary. When it is happening and right in front of you, you're so freaking distracted, you can't even see it.
Stop voting for Democrats.
That's what's... I think the
I
Republicans
wish
should
it was
do
that
better.
simple.
Oh, I think the Republicans should do better too.
Yeah, because I'm not voting for Democrats. I think the Republicans should do better.
100% they
Yeah.
should do better, because if the Republicans knew what they were doing, we'd already have the fair tax voted on and passed.
So,
But,
okay.
but they're pulling money out of the till too. They don't want the fair tax either.
100%.
Yeah.
And
100%.
that's
Yep.
the problem.
They're driven by
Okay,
lobbyists as well.
It is
Here we go.
8:30. We didn't waffle at all.
we
This was
stirred
more
the
like
pot with our-
this was like a long john. We were just on. This was a pancake.
We grabbed the
today.
reins and off we went.
One
Yeah.
topic, didn't waffle at all.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Hey, happy first day of school, and we'll be back next week. With
Bye, guys.